All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. I know we still have people joining. As you join, if you don't mind just introducing yourselves in the chat, it's always good for us to see who's joining us and where you're from. Helps all of our panelists and everybody just kind of know who's in the room. So again, thank you for joining. My name is Alyssa Hobart, and I serve as the director of the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We're so excited you could join us for our family engagement webinar this morning for Grade Level Reading Week. And before we begin, I just wanted to share a little bit about what is the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading, because some of you may have heard about this through different friends and different people within your network. So the Campaign for Grade Level Reading is a statewide effort to help all children succeed in school and life by ensuring that they can read on grade level by third grade. We seek to help communities strengthen and align their existing resources. And it's also just a framework to open lines of communication and bolster any working relationships between various community groups and organizations. So we currently have 11 recognized Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities in the state of Mississippi, which we're very excited about. And so some of you may be representing these communities or realizing, oh, there's one where I live. So hopefully this is getting some of you excited. And Grade Level Reading Week is just an annual summer highlight so that we can learn, grow, and continue to strengthen our network, both within Mississippi and as a national campaign. So our theme this morning is focus on the gaps. It's our theme actually for the whole week. And so what we were thinking about here for Mississippi, these are just some of the areas that our campaign communities focus on and what our mobilized communities are doing. And so as we were kind of reflecting, we realized, you know what, we've been spending a lot of time thinking about parents and families here in Mississippi. And so it's a gap that we continue to work on, but we also have a lot of work that we can highlight to learn from one another what we're doing in Mississippi to truly engage families and equip parents. So for this morning, I already introduced myself, so I will be one of your moderators. We also have Steve Greeley, who is the president of Shared Cause, will be our other moderator. And we're going to kind of dive in and get started with our panelists. So we have Michelle Connolly, if you guys just want to wave as I introduce you, and then we'll get started, who is the executive director of the United Way of West Central Mississippi. She also serves as the community lead for the Vicksburg-Warren CGLR community. Next, we'll hear from Rhonda Lewis, who is the VP of Education at Delta Health Alliance and also serves as the community lead for Deer Creek Reads, one of our newest Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading communities. Then we'll hear from Allison Crane, who is with MDE, and she is the Northern Region School Attendance Officer Supervisor and also serves as a member on the Lou Reads Coalition. And then last, I think she's still trying to join us, and that's okay, but we'll hear from Miss Carolina Reeves Garcia, hopefully, who is the district EL coordinator for the Laurel School District and also serves on their Campaign for Grade Level Reading Coalition. So we'll get started, and I will have Michelle start and share a little bit about what Vicksburg is doing.
Good morning, guys. It's quite the honor to be here. I am a firm believer that parents are the number one primary educator of their child. They should take an active role in all decisions that are made and to be very informed in how to move forward with the educational journey of their children. The United Way of West Central Mississippi works very closely with our school district, Vicksburg-Warren School District, and we are coming off of a summer high. We had so many amazing things that happened this summer that I would love to just give you a brief overview of real quickly before we move on to other things. We just had a family health fair like no other family health fair there's ever been. It was focusing on children birth all the way to 6th grade. We had almost 75 resources available. And these resources were specifically to ensure that our parents can make informed decisions in regards to early intervention, recognizing and meeting the needs of autistic children, with children diagnosed with ADHD, with local resources in our community so that they can make sure that they are making the right educational choices, and also to keep their children safe and understand where they could continue their adventure outside of the health fair. Our special guest, of course, was Coach Calhoun with the Bauer Foundation, which really brought kids in because they were super excited to see their star. One of the gaps that we have recognized in our community is access to early intervention. So we have been working very hard to fill that gap by educating our parents about the resources that are available and the steps that they have to take in order to ensure that their child receives services. Another gap that we've noticed, especially around our early children, is access to the vouchers for quality educational opportunities for children under the age of 5. And we are working together to ensure that our parents are informed on how to access those vouchers and also have that one-on-one assistance to help them complete the application. In regards to attendance, we are ramping up the work that we're doing around attendance. We are making sure that we have wonderful ways to celebrate those who do attend, but also gather information from our parents who do have children who are chronically absent. We are going to be kicking off a survey this year to gather the reasons why. Why are your children staying at home? Why are you keeping them at home? And how can we help fill that gap across the community? We had a wonderful early intervention, a wonderful literacy intervention program where we had over 300 children enrolled in the program during the school year. According to the iReady scores, they gained 12 months worth of reading. We're very proud of that. We expanded that into our summer programming. And also, speaking of summer program that we're still super excited about, we had a program called Connect in Literacy, where 30 parents graduated from Connect in Literacy so that they had a better understanding of how to use a computer, how to access the computer, and most importantly, all 30 of them left with their very own laptop. So knowledge, access to their very own laptop. And the thing that really excited me the most is one of the grandparents said that this right here will ensure that we break the poverty cycle in my family. And I was very excited about that. There are so many amazing resources and so many amazing ways that we can get our parents involved. We're still working on that. I'm completely transparent and honest. It is something that we do struggle with, but we continue to do it. We have wonderful resources. We've recently put together a youth development center here in our community, where not only do the parents have a place to go to find the resources for their children, the school, the youth court, the police department, and the sheriff's department has a place to refer families so that they can be wrapped around with quality resources that are available in here at Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Awesome.
Terrific.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, Rhonda, you're next.
Okay, good morning. My name is Rhonda Lewis, and I'm with Delta Health Alliance. Delta Health Alliance is a nonprofit organization that is changing healthcare and education in the Mississippi Delta. We do this by improving access to health services, we promote healthier lifestyles, and we expand educational opportunities. Our partnerships are the most important aspect of our work that we do, because by building relationships with our partners, that opens doors to the community. Specifically, I work with, on the education side, I work with 2 Promise neighborhoods. One is Deer Creek Promise Community, which serves the footprint of the Leland, Hollandale, and Arcola area. And the other is in LaFleur. So when we talk about Promise Neighborhoods, these are cradle to career efforts that we work with birth to getting people out in the workforce. Specifically for this target and the campaign, when looking at grades K through 3 and how we can provide impact on education and family engagement, we have a few targeted areas. We have targeted literacy programs, home visitation programs, and we also have summer camps, which just wrapped up. So several programs that we have for literacy are our Spark program, whom we partner with the Children's Defense Fund to provide early literacy intervention. It's actually pullouts in small groups with at-risk students. Students receive small group. The Spark Advocate actually is from the Children's Defense Fund. And they also do home visitation to the families for the wraparound services. We have partnered with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, and not just in this area for Deer Creek Reads, but in over 12 counties. And so every child has the opportunity to start a free at-home library, ages 0 to 5. We have the Literacy Fellows, which is a high-quality research-based reading intervention. It's also small group pullouts. Students build decoding skills through phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and vocabulary instruction. And then in our summer camps, literacy programs, we have Small World and Promise School, which are both transitional school-based camps which prepare pre-K and kindergarten students for the upcoming school year. The purpose is to improve K readiness and provide targeted educational interventions over the summer. We also have a literacy camp in the summer that focuses, it's for rising third graders, and it focuses on book studies. So they read The Salt in His Shoes and Because of Winn-Dixie. And they do similar activities as the transitional camps to try to encourage readiness for the third grade. One of our largest contributors to family engagement is our LINKS program. LINKS stands for, and that we have a lot of acronyms at Delta Health Alliance. LINKS stands for Linking Individuals, Neighborhoods, and Kids to Services. It's a family navigation system. So it's a centralized resource and referral hub that connects families to resources available in our community based on their needs. Children qualify to participate based on attendance, behavior, or course performance issues. So we are able to push out information to families through these home visitation programs.
Right. Thank you, Rhonda.
Sure.
All right, next we're going to hear from Allison Crane.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining, and it's my privilege to speak to you today. Tell me, I don't know if it's my internet. Are y'all able to hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
If so, okay. It keeps giving me warnings that my internet is unstable. So anyway, if something happens, let me know and I'll hop on my phone. So yes, I'm Allison Crane, and I work with the Mississippi Department of Education, the Office of Compulsory School Attendance Enforcement and Dropout Prevention. I serve as the Northern Region Supervisor for school attendance officers. So I began my career in 2001 as a school attendance officer in Yalobusha County. I served Coffeyville and Water Valley school districts. And then 11 years
You're starting to go in and out.
and Oxford school districts, and that's my going in. Okay, let me hop to my phone.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Let me leave it. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay. So I began my journey as a school attendance officer back in 2001. And then I rolled into the supervisor position in 2019. So I supervised 34 counties. I have 46 school attendance officers. And as I was stating, that's where my involvement with Lou Reed came in with our campaign. So as a school attendance officer, we are given the job and the large task of keeping children in school. Our main goal is to enforce, and the reason for our existence is to enforce the Mississippi Compulsory School Attendance Law. So every one of you have a school attendance officer in your county. Some of our larger counties may have more than one. But we are employees of MDE. And then, like I said, we are hired by counties and we serve those local districts. So our job, parental engagement, is a main piece in what we do. Our officers make sure the families know and understand the compulsory school attendance law, including the consequences for non-enrollment and lack of attendance. We also are the ones, if your child is a homeschooler, we are also the one we receive the certificate enrollment forms for homeschoolers every year. So we, school attendance officer and family engagement, is a crucial relationship. Both of us want to ensure that student success happens through regular attendance. Also, as a school attendance officer, part of our roles are defined, as you know, by the compulsory school attendance law. And one of those is to make sure that students are present, engaged, and ready to learn. And so how do we do that as school attendance officers? Well, we're given the task, we send letters out, we make phone calls, and then if necessary, home visits are made to reach these parents of the children that have, at least if they're enrolled in public school, they have to have 5 unexcused days before they are referred to us. Of course, as part of the law, there is punitive consequences for your child not attending school or not attending on a regular basis. But our hope is to get the issue resolved, remove that barrier before it requires any court action. So also within the past couple of years, the Mississippi Department of Education has also taken a stance on attendance awareness, specifically chronic absenteeism campaign. We have the Every School Day Counts, Attend to Achieve. That toolkit is on our Mississippi Department of Education website. You can download that toolkit. It benefits It highlights the reasons why attendance matters, and it also emphasizes ways to prevent students from being chronically absent. And download that toolkit. You can share it with community partners, with your school. You can also, of course, tweak it to make it your own so it fits your community and the goals that you're trying to reach. As you know, MDE also releases a chronic absenteeism report. Our new report is not out yet. It is in the works, but it will be posted also to the MDE website. Also, there is a parental engagement piece, part of MDE, and it has toolkits for parents that you can also distribute at your community events. I know that these are being printed by MDE at one point, so I'm sure you can reach out to that office and have those booklets sent to you that you can also distribute. And I think they were doing literacy nights where they also put that parental piece in there, and they're distributed then. So yes, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison.
Uh-huh.
All right. So next we're going to hear from Miss Carolina Reeves Garcia with the Laurel School District. And she's going to share a little bit about what she's doing as the district EL coordinator to engage and increase family engagement in Laurel.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm sorry for signing late, but we had some technical difficulties, but we had the best IT team, so they came to my rescue, and here I am. But yeah, I don't know if you know, but today is our first day of school. So it's been a crazy morning. Actually, in this building right now, this is the hub for registration. So out there, there's a lot of parents still registering. And when I finish this, that's where I'm heading. So it's an honor for me to really share with you how our district has, in a sense, redefined EL parental involvement. It has taken many years. Our program has, we're starting year number 23. So yeah, we have been in this many years, but I think there's a few things that had made this parental involvement a reality. One thing I think for sure is we always have had with our EL families an open door policy. Whenever they need our help, whenever they need to come to school, to central office, we're never going to send them back. There's always going to be somebody who speaks their language that is going to make sure that is listening to what they need. They may not be able to meet with teachers or principal at that time, but we will make sure that somebody is there to talk to them. So our parents feel welcome. And they're not afraid of coming to us. So for us, accessibility and transparency is very important. And I think it's something, it's been a well-established practice here at the Lower School District. Another thing, and before, because as Allison was talking, I want to say something that I didn't think about this before, but we do work very closely. We're a truancy officer here at the Lower School District. I mean it. We have a bilingual parent liaison. So anytime we have any attendance issue with a Hispanic family, Trina will come to us, will talk either to me or to my parent bilingual liaison, and we'll take care of it. We'll work very hard to resolve the issue. So actually, our population here is the population that have the least problems with attendance. Then cultural awareness. I think that's something very important. We use any opportunity that we have to develop activity. Oh, there's my pictures. I had forgotten about that. And I'm sure those pictures say, yes, thank you, Lisa. I completely forgotten. So yes, so the first picture that you see was last year, homecoming. So that's our float. And you can see, you see me, you see a parent there, you see the students in the background, and I'm proud to say that we won second place. So any opportunity that we have to showcase our culture, we will. And then, of course, during Hispanic Heritage Month, during Hispanic Heritage Month, I mean, as a district, we take that opportunity. I said last year when I had an interview, like a big party throughout the whole month. So we're displaying, we're showcasing, so our students and families feel that they're part, and then the rest of the community just embrace that. I always say that we enrich our district very much. And then you see that other picture, those are parents. That was at one of our elementary schools last year when we had that Heritage Night. So they came up with that. I mean, we just asked, you want to participate? And yes, they did. So even our parents, they would come and perform and participate at the end of the school year this year in front of when we had our last board meeting. They came and they sang for the board meeting. So not very often you hear the stories, but that's how involved our parents are. So another thing, that's the next picture, and we're very proud. This is our third year. We have our EL Parent Academy. That was our first graduating class. So we offer English classes for our families, adults in the community who doesn't speak English, and yeah, that has been a success. And then a lot of those parents, I mean, because I would say like 80% of our students are our parents. So of course, they feel involved, they feel part of it, they feel like the student. So it has been a wonderful project. And last but not least, I think on my last picture there, the next two pictures, Alisa, there were two more, but it's okay. So there we go. Oh, so we started this last year. It's called Education Begins at Home, where we have these meetings with the parents by buildings or grade levels to address different issues. You name it, from helping with homework, from teaching them how to go to the library, to talking about serious issues that teenagers are going through. I mean, you name it. And this has been taken so well with our parents. And whenever we do our survey, one of the things that they say, we want more of these, because we talk to them like real talks, real conversations. And that has been probably, and we're going to continue this year. And the attendance is, I mean, you see it there. I think that was our parents of second, third, and fourth. Yes. And we have different guests. One time we had a police officer. So that also has been tremendously successful. That Education Begins at Home series. And I just want to add also that I think that the communication relationship we have with our parents has been so great that my department has created a effective parent communication PD session that we give to all the district. And that's my responsibility. So there's another one there. Yes, I think those were my, that was middle school. That was middle school. And yes, and we had great attendance, like I said, and this series has been one of the best things probably we did last year, because sometimes our parents don't know, sometimes they're afraid, sometimes. So when we touch those topics and we're very real and transparent and honest, they take it very well. So so that was a wonderful thing we started last year. And that's also when we introduced Room 2. You know, as part of, so that's it was not that session, because that's for more the lower elementary, but that's also where we introduced that tool as well.
Miss Carolina, do you want to explain a little bit about what do you mean by room? What is room?
Well, Alisa, let me tell you this. I was not the lead person, and that was Miss Rodriguez. We had another person that did the course, right? So maybe what I'm gonna say, because she was the person. It was not me. So it's a tool. It's an app parents download, and it's mainly for babies all the way through 5, if I'm not mistaken, right? That gives them tool to parents to help build that literacy. Things like, I remember, like I said, I remember some of the things like, one of the things that we had to do a lot with little ones is to talk to them, converse. So it will tell you things like, okay, if you're at the doctor's office, these are the conversations that you can have. Before you go to sleep, you can do these. So it tells you all these activities. And then when you have completed the activity, you click like you have done it, and it keeps track of what you're doing with your child. So I hope, like I said, Alisa, that was Ms. Rodriguez's responsibility, but I was there listening and paying attention to what we taught our parents.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, Miss Carolina, if you guys can't tell, is very passionate and has so much joy and excitement, especially when it comes to working, not just with the families to her community, but being able to share that across her district. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us that district perspective as well. So I am going to kind of switch hats. We did have our friends from the MDE Literacy Department wanted to join us today, but they are unable to join us because they're presenting at another conference. So I told them it's okay, I got it. So within the Mississippi Department of Education and the Literacy Department specifically, they have continued to evolve and really think about how are we supporting families across the whole state too, right? Because we have all these great community organizations, we have our schools, but we got to make sure that also statewide, we have this focus on families. So you'll see here on the slide, one of the big resources that came out for them was our Strong Readers, Strong Leaders website. And what's really cool about this website is it gives activities and resources, but it's meant for any parent, grandparent, anybody who works with kids. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of money or different materials that you need to purchase, but it gives you specific things that you can work on birth through 5th grade to support literacy in all students. And a lot of the activities are fun, simple things that you can do. So that website is linked on the slide, and I'll share it in the chat too. One of the new things they've come out with in the past year, which is actually now the homepage of the Strong Readers, Strong Leaders website, is the Know Your Score campaign. And so what really prompted this was thinking about how within our law, there is Schools administer screeners 3 times a year to kindergarten through third graders. And if the score indicates that a student might be at risk of having a substantial deficiency in reading, the law requires that schools send that documentation home to families. And so it's really important, not that just schools know that, right? But that parents know to expect not only that their child's score is being communicated to them, but especially if there's some need for extra support, that they're notified right away. And so it just really helps make sure that parents know what should be coming home, helping them understand what does this mean? Because sometimes we know a piece of paper isn't always the best way, right? We have to make sure that we're empowering parents to understand, why am I receiving this? What do I do next? Who can I talk to about this? So that's continuing to evolve and has been very promising within the past semester, making sure that we are sending home materials that are parent facing is really important as well. The other big thing that they do every year are our regional family literacy nights. So those dates and locations will be publicly announced the beginning of August. And at those meetings, we call them parents as partners meetings is actually what we call them, or families as partners. And it's really just provides families with an overview of the state law, as well as strategies that can be used at home to help all students improve their reading skills. And it also makes sure that parents understand that our literacy law is actually based and focused on prevention, not retention, and also intervention to help make sure that children develop the reading skills they need to be proficient readers. And we also know that none of that can happen without family engagement and family support. So those meetings are really, really great, and provide a great opportunity to also ask questions and really get involved and just, again, feel empowered about their role because they are their child's first teacher. And so those are really helpful as well. So now we're going to kind of open it up for some panel discussion that Steve's going to help lead. So I'll pass it off to Steve Greeley.
All right, thank you very much. And just a quick bit of background. I had an organization called Shared Cause. We've been around for about 30 years. And our work involves really figuring out how to inspire people to get involved in making good change happen and organizing for that change. And we've spent decades working in the arena of early childhood education, and have seen that there's a real variety all around the country in terms of how communities think about family engagement. Everything from just having a few school events every year to deep community engagement. And members of this panel, this group, have really been involved in deep family engagement. And I wanted to really kind of investigate how that has come about. How did your organizations come to prioritize a focus on really creating more systemic support for families? And what is the ideal scenario that you're working towards? And Michelle, since you went first, I'm going to ask you first. You could talk about how your community really decided to prioritize this and do deep work in it.
Unfortunately, about a little over a year ago in our community, there was a tragic situation that took place, a tragic event. There was a 13-year-old male in our community who lost his life to gun violence. The mayor asked me to come and speak with him about what program could we create to wrap our arms around the youth of our community to ensure that that does not happen again to our community. My immediate response was, we do not need to create another program. We have a multitude of programs in our community. we should be charged with finding, doing an asset mapping of the programs in our community and finding those with quality indicators that can truly make change, not only in the lives of the children, but also in the lives of the families who are their primary support system. As we were doing the asset mapping, of course, we recognized that we had some gaps, but one of the main challenges that we found was putting the people in those resources. How do they find where those resources are? And what saddened me even more was our local agencies such as the Vicksburg Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the school district, our local youth court. They didn't even know where those resources were and felt as if there was nowhere to refer these families. So the city of Vicksburg, the Warren County Board of Supervisors, and the Vicksburg Warren School District partnered with United Way of West Central Mississippi to create what we call the Youth Development Center. It's the Youth Development Center's responsibility to continually asset what resources are available in our community, provide training for those resources, but then act as the conduit between families who are looking for resources and agencies who are referring families to resources. It is our responsibility at the YDC to continue working with those families, not just place them, but gather the necessary data to ensure that we are making a difference. Is this the right place for them? To continue that open communication with the family, to continue the open communication between whoever referred that particular family to that agency along with that agency. And it really was, Steve, a systematic change of how we handle providing resources to our community. And that was number one, putting the family first, putting those parents first. What is it that your child needs? Where can we find that for your child? And how can we follow up to make sure that you're satisfied with the resources that we are providing your child? That gives them ownership of the journey that their child is going to take, their family will take. It will give them continued updates on where they are going and how they are improving. And it puts all of us talking together, and it's critical. I mean, I know that we say that it takes a village, but it truly does. And it just doesn't take a siloed village. It takes a village that's talking to each other and growing with each other and recognizing what are our strengths altogether and what are our challenges. But at the heart of that are the parents, and they must be informed, and we must provide them all the skills that they need to be that primary educator.
So I'm taking from this that right from the start, you decided to take a community-wide approach, really trying to build partnerships with family-serving organizations and build partnerships with families themselves. What are you seeing that the participating organizations are gaining from being part of something like that?
Well, to ensure that this was not going to be a challenge for the participating organizations, we did two things. First and foremost, if there was a quality indicator that they were not exhibiting, we provide professional development free of charge for them to improve the services that they are providing. Well, actually, it's threefold. Next, volunteers. How do they go about finding volunteers? How do they go about finding tutors? How do they go about finding mentors? The YDC recruits those volunteers / mentors / tutors, train those volunteers / mentors / tutors, do background checks for those volunteers, compliments from the city of Vicksburg, free of charge, so that we can then place them. And third and final is, oh my goodness. The third and final component to that is our voucher system. Because although these are nonprofits and although they provide these services free of charge, we all know that they are not free services. They do cost. If you are going to have an influx of participants, clients, that is an additional charge to those agencies. So if they are a YDC qualified agency here in our community and they receive a YDC referred child or family into their services, we then in response honor a voucher for the cost that it will incur that particular agency. So training, additional volunteers, and reimbursement for the cost that it will take to have an increase in clients for their agency.
Oh, that's impressive. That's great. Rhonda, I'd like to take up the same kind of question with you, and recognizing that you also in your communities, you have a particular neighborhood focus. How has that influenced your deep emphasis on family partnership?
Right. So, as part of the Promise Neighborhood Grant, we actually canvass the neighborhoods annually. We have what we call the Deer Creek Promise Community Neighborhood Survey. We hire community workers to partner with our staff members, and they go door to door canvassing communities to get the answers to vital community questions. It might be around school safety. How safe do you feel your child is traveling to and from school? In your neighborhood, do you feel like people care about your child in your neighborhood? So it could be safety. It could be how often do you read to your child? Ages 0 to 5, and then we have another question, K through 8. So we have lots of targeted questions to try to gather information, and we use that data to try to focus our programs in the actual areas needed. Another way that we gather data is through our school partnerships. We get bi-weekly data on attendance. We receive their test scores for the beginning, middle, and end of year. We receive their state test scores only on participants who are consented and enrolled in our programs. We do not get that data on other, children. We work really hard to ensure that our participants are dually enrolled. And by that, I mean, if a child was in Imagination Library, we try to encourage them to be a part of Spark if they qualify. And then they just keep continually growing through our system of programs. So we, the home visitation programs are key to try to get information out. But it's also key that we have our information, it's not last minute, and we're not pushing something out last minute, because travel is a problem in the Delta, transportation, and so we have to give our families plenty of notice so that they can participate and attend.
So one of the things that I'm hearing from this is you have a tremendous amount of two-way communication going on, and that's at the heart of what you're doing. And there's a sense of relationship building, and there's a family influence on what the community does to provide support. Is that right?
Yes.
That's really, really impressive. Carolina, you say that real focus on family engagement began around 20 years ago. So you have a lot of history with this. What have you seen are some of the critical characteristics that have to be in place in order to really have strong family connections and support? What needs to be, what's kind of key to getting there?
Let me tell you, what you just said is very important, 20 years in the making. I always say that I was lucky to be hired by people who had vision. 20 years ago, 22, 23, we only had probably not even 15 ELs in this district, but they knew they weren't going anywhere. They knew the population, I mean, it was going to keep growing. We saw that influx, I mean, like I said, 20 years ago. So they knew we had to do something. I always say that. I mean, those administrators back in the day, superintendent, I mean, they had the vision. They knew it was coming. They knew what's happening when other districts was not even acknowledging this happening. So yes, it begins with that. So now when we look at numbers right now, we have buildings that have the population represents 11, 12% in some buildings, and in some other buildings, up to 18% of the population are EL students. So you see, anyway, so I always say that it had to do with that vision. And then to acknowledge, I mean, and then to me, I always say this. When people ask us or ask me or any of my team, why are you so successful? It's because we have built meaningful relationships and connections with those families, with those parents. We make it's a goal to really get to know those families, where they're coming from, what they've been through, what their priority are, what the story behind them are. So we really have that those relationships at a personal level. And I think without it, I mean, there's only so much you can do. And when you get to know them and they get to know you, and then, or even when we're so limited to helping them, but if they know that you're trying to do your very best to help them, in return, they're grateful. And they will be involved, and they will do basically whatever you ask from them. So I think without meaningful or real relationships and connections, it would be impossible. No matter what I do, no matter how a pretty picture I paint, no matter, because we truly, I always say, we have here at this point, if I have to tell you a number, well, if you start the school year, the numbers are going to change. We have around 260 ELs right now between serve and monitor. And if you ask me how many of those families I know, I will tell you like 80-90%. I know them. If you anything that you ask me about them, I know. And I tell my teachers all the time, our job the first few weeks is to really get to know them. When we have those newcomers, families from, we really need to know them, understand where they're coming from. When you understand, then you really start building those relationships. So to me, that's always the first thing, real relationships and connections. Without them, you can't. And again, I was lucky to be in a place where people saw that. And then we have, I think throughout the years, because yeah, I'm not gonna fool myself or lie, the people have their personal opinion about immigrants, about ELs, but when they see once we mainstream them, once we work with them and they see the results, what's happening right now, then how is it the majority embrace them? I mean, I have to say it, I'm sorry, but I have to say it, like these last 2 years, our valedictorians have been former ELs. So it's a product of 12, 13 years, and you've seen the results now. So when you see that, of course, everybody's going to be on board.
Yeah. And so really a theme that's coming out from all of you is prioritizing ways to build relationships that are really truly two-way, and to organize supports based on the input that relationship building gives you. And Allison, I wanted to ask you, because your situation is you're really kind of overseeing a pretty big system, and it's an arena of education that has really kind of evolved quite a bit in recent years in terms of how school districts and schools approach the issue of attendance. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that evolution a little bit. How is the educational system changing its thinking, and how does that relate to how it interacts with families?
Sure. So, as many of you know, regular school attendance just cannot happen without family engagement. It is an essential partnership And we realized that we needed to overcome the myth that school attendance is solely a school issue, that it falls solely on the hands of district personnel. It is just as much as a family issue also. We realized that we needed to provide our parents with needed resources, that they would have a place where they could go to aid them in fulfilling their role as a brain builder, their child's first teacher, their first tutor, their strongest advocate. That parent knows what that child needs, and their best coach. We needed to see parents as an integral part of their child's education. And as many of you know, some of the parents that we deal with did not have a successful or a strong relationship in their own education. So we had to create a desire for these parents to go into these buildings and to value their child's attendance and their education as a top priority, because it may not have been that way with them and their own parents. Additionally, I think we had to show parents that our schools wanted their children there. That I think sometimes our schools were, like bell rings, doors closed, we'll see you at 3:30. So we had to begin establishing relationships that promoted a positive learning environment and a sense of belonging for parents. And I think our districts do well with that, inviting parents in, because that's where we really established a trusting and a positive relationship with these families and their teachers and the district personnel. Whether it's a parent coming in to have lunch with their student, they would know who was there. Opening the doors of our schools and inviting parents in, they could see it as a welcoming, safe environment, a place where they would want to send their kids every morning. And then lastly, I think we had to kind of create a culture where attendance matters. Every day, all ages. I know our law in Mississippi primarily focuses on children aged 6 to 17. And with that, you see kindergarten's not mandatory. So sometimes our parents have the mindset, well, my child is just in kindergarten. What does it matter if they go today? What does it matter if they miss today? Don't they, the myth was they nap after lunch anyway. Why should I send them to school? So we know that all has changed. And, sometimes we'll have parents when I'm on the phone. Well, a lot of times they'll say, well, my child is makes straight A's. Well, that's great, but their attendance matters and they're still missing, quality educational minutes when they are not there. So we had to begin to educate our families about the impact that their attendance has on their child's education. And instead of saying, well, you've got to send your child to school because it's the law, we had to let parents know that attending school was their child's opportunity to learn every day.
Terrific. That's great. So you've really talked about this aspect of relationship building and two-way communication. And I'm wondering what kinds of insights you've gained into, along with relationships where they feel known and they are heard, and there's responsiveness to them. So that sounds like that's something that you work towards as a foundation for everything you do. What have you learned also that parents particularly value in terms of the support and like the partnership that evolves from those regulations? What do they value? Can anybody weigh in on that?
They value their children, Stephen. So if their children are having a positive experience in the resource that you're able to provide, they value that. That's number one. If you are able to make a substantial difference in helping their children and what they're challenged with, that's number two. But most importantly, every parent wants to hear something positive about their child. And it can be as simple as an email at the end of the day. We recently had a camp for students here in Vicksburg, and I made it a point to find something positive about every one of those children attending the camp. And then I made it a point to email that parent at least once or twice a week to let them know what that positive thing was. But I also saw some of the challenges that their children were having. A very small example, one young girl came and her glasses were broke. Well, I immediately that evening emailed the grandparent, the guardian of that child, and I said, I noticed that her glasses were broke. Is there anything that we can do to help you? Because we know for a female of that age how important appearance is when they're trying to fit in with others. So it's their children that they value. And if you value their children and you respect their children and you respect the parent's role, then you are making the connections that you need to make for long-term involvement. You are gaining their trust. You have to, and I know we're all extremely busy. So don't get me wrong when I say that sometimes it's difficult to do that. But if we are truly working towards networking and gaining the respect that Miss Carolina has with her families, we have to do that. We have to let them know that we respect their children.
Mhm.
Stephen,
Carolina, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say that in my case, of course, it's a different perspective, but I think that the one thing that our parents really value is that unwavering support that we give them in the case of our young families. Second thing is that respect with which we treat them. I mean, we really value them. They feel valued. And I know in some other places it may not be the same story. And another thing that I've noticed is how we celebrate their children's achievement. And I think as a parent, we all appreciate that, right? Because there's always this idea if you're the outsider, if you're left aside, you're never. But in our case, we at least we have this group. We have because that's another thing I don't think I mentioned. We do have a group just for the Hispanic and the EO parents. So any opportunity that we have to, hey, look what happened, look what so-and-so did, look at this. I mean, we're gonna make a big deal out of it. We will. And I think parents do appreciate that. So yeah, I was gonna say that. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, because yeah, I know you hear me and you say it's all nice and it's pretty, but another thing that we do is that we hold them accountable. If they don't show up, if they're not doing they're not doing homework, they're not behaving, they're not coming to school, we will hold those parents accountable. We will call, we will go home, we will tell them, like just an example, like right now, we have during June 2 weeks where we help our parents for registration. It's July 22nd. It's been over a month and a half, and I have a few. But before I help them right now, I am going to have a serious conversation with them and say, look, we had this time. You should have come June the 2nd, no, right now. I'm going to help you, but this is not going to happen again. So we also hold them accountable on the other side, and they know that.
So that sounds to me like the aspect of accountability is also connected with a relationship.
Yes. Yes. And they take it very well. They're not going to get mad or upset. They're going to give excuses maybe, and they're going to apologize. But because they know where it's coming from, it's not going to be a problem.
Right, because they know you care.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Rhonda, any thoughts that you'd like to add about this, about what families really at their heart want in order to engage with you and the supports you provide?
Right. So I kind of want to piggyback on what Allison spoke to with kindergarten attendance. Our parents in both the Leland and Hollandale school districts, when focusing on K through 3, they really are concerned with their child passing the 3rd grade GATE assessment. And parents, we try to provide our family and parents with knowledge about the importance of K readiness. If a student can achieve a score of 530 or above on the beginning of kindergarten on their STAR early literacy assessment, they're more likely to be proficient in reading at the end of the 3rd grade. Also, their spring scale score should be 681. And this places them on the trajectory to meet 3rd grade expectations. So we always try to convey this information if at all possible. It's difficult for a child to attain those scores if they don't come to school. So it's always providing extra information for parents for the importance of attendance.
And if I'm that two-way communication where you're counseling parents on really importance of the kindergarten milestone, then in understanding that, parents are able to then ask other questions and really look at the issues that may relate to that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. And we also target, our programs target the lower 25%. But yet we also have situations where we engage all the students. We recently, last spring, we have at Delta State University, which is about 35 miles from here in Cleveland, Mississippi, they have what's called the Bologna Performing Arts Center, the BPAC, and they do school time matinees. And so we sent every kindergartner to go see, it was the Ugly Duckling. So they get to see in the performance, they get a free book, and then they get to do arts and crafts before they go back. So we're trying to introduce early experiences and interventions to try to encourage literacy.
Mm. One of the things that's also really interesting is how parent engagement grows over time. And I'm wondering what members of this panel have experienced in that. For example, in your community, was there a smaller start and then things grew or not? And what was kind of key to the growth of participation happening? Anybody want to weigh in on that?
I can go first. I think it's just awareness of your organization and what you're trying to accomplish. I think that social media can be a wonderful tool to bring awareness. I think that being out in the community when they see us each year, they're looking for us in April or May, depending on for the neighborhood survey. They're used to us. We're year 7 of conducting that survey. So I think it's just familiarity and awareness of your cause.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, participation is a challenge in our area. I know our campaign talks about this a lot because it is a challenge. But we have kind of taken the approach of meeting parents where they are. So instead of asking them to come to back to school nights in the school, then we take kind of that meeting on the road. And so if it's at a housing authority, they're a parent room at the housing authority, then we go there. And whatever resources they were going to gain at the back to school night at the school, we would bring that to them to try to see if that would kind of encourage participation. And of course we offer like a gift card. If they come, they get their name and, for a raffle for a gift card. And usually it's for like either a local grocery store or a restaurant, to try to reward the parent, like, for, groceries or, here's a gift card. You don't have to cook dinner, this night. So here's your reward for coming. So, and also, just being consistent and engaging. I think, our campaign does a breakfast at the bus stop. And so, we do that we've done this consistently, probably for the past 4 years. And so they look for us, they know we're coming every September, with McDonald's biscuits. And so I think being consistent and being engaging, I do feel like our community and with our campaign, we are, continually offering events and opportunities for parents to come in and participate. There they can just gather, whether it be for fun, with the roll and read that Kara and the campaign puts on at our local park, for fun, for fellowship, and just also learn what our community has to offer. So we have a Halloween spectacular that is put on. It's where all these local agencies get together and kind of trick or treat at different tables, but it offers resources for parents to know where whatever issue they may be struggling or have a question, that's all in one place. So kind of meeting them where they are.
That's
I
great
would like
advice.
to, whoops, and I'd like to ditto Allison, and reiterate fun. They're looking for places to trunk or treat. We have 1,200 children that come through our trunk or treat every year. If you know we have 1,200 children, then let's get the right people there and the right trunks there with the right resources. And let's not just pass out candy, let's pass out resources. There's the community-wide Easter egg hunts. They're always looking for places to go to do Easter egg hunts. Let's make sure that we are where they are. 100% agreed, but let's make sure that there's a layer of fun. And I may be speaking too soon, and I apologize, but if you're hosting a family literacy night in your community, layer some fun into it. Layer some challenges. Layer some excitement. Think of ways outside of the box where the message can be shared, but you trick them to get there by having a fun event that everyone is going to enjoy before they leave for the evening.
Mhm.
Steve, I'm going to add one thing here. What I'm kind of just hearing come up a lot, and just from talking with all these ladies, sometimes they forget all of the great things they do too. So I know some other things that I've heard from engaging with all of them is also the importance of not just going to parents, but a lot of you also rely on parent leaders. I think with those relationships you guys have created, people who then again trust you. You guys have a respectful relationship, and they also can go get other families and other parents who need to access these resources that you're handing out, right, Michelle? But you have another trusted messenger, because sometimes it isn't the people that are on this call, right? It's knowing your community and knowing who are those other family leaders or other trusted organizations that have those relationships with families already that you can partner with instead of always adding on new things. It's really just, how can we work together? Oh, you're already serving families. I have this great resource or great opportunity. I think it would be great if, how can we work together so that this can reach all of our families that we're trying to reach? So consistent and engaging. And then the other one was also making sure that parents feel connected to each other, which is where that parent liaison kind of comes in. But instead of just, what are you providing for families, making sure parents and families are in spaces where they feel connected to families and parents like them. Because it's also important, I think, and a lot of you already do this, but you really approach this with an assets-based perspective. These parents and families already are doing a great job and the best they can with their children because they want what's best for their child. And so knowing that there are other families and parents who either have found success with this or are like, oh, you also struggle with that? Okay, I thought I was alone in this, knowing they're not just with y'all, but with other families in their community.
Yeah, that's a great summary of some other critical factors. Thank you. That's terrific. And you've all talked also about, you have partnerships of organizations in your community. So you essentially you're building a community of support. And organizations really don't join in partnerships or stay in partnerships unless they see, real value in doing that. What is some of the value that you see organizations gaining by being part of these community-wide partnerships? I'd like to talk about that. Michelle, I might
Yeah.
call on you. You go ahead.
I'm coming. I know it would be cliche for the one person on the panel from United Way to say that Living United is the best way to approach everything, but I'm gonna say it. Living United is amazing. And Steve, it takes time. Coalition building does not happen overnight. Getting parents involved does not happen overnight. Getting children to your events does not happen overnight. It's very intentional. I cannot tell you the many of times that we have put together something that I thought was going to hit it out of the park. And the number of people who attend is very sad. And you walk away working so very hard to put something together, and other people don't see the quality in that. It is easy to say, oh, well, I'm going to give up and we'll try something different. Or it is, in my opinion, better to understand what were the challenges, what could we have improved, and how can we grow on this. And once you start really focusing and being intentional on how you collaborate and how you coordinate, and I don't even like the word coordinate, to be honest with you. I like collaboration. Once you are intentional on collaborating, which is a whole nother level than coordinating, once you're intentional on collaborating, figuring out what your common goals are, what we want to see improve as a community as a whole, you bring passion to that. You hold them accountable for what they say they are going to do as a part of that collaborative. And you move forward and you start seeing success. And again, it takes a long time. So this is not easy. But one of the things that you have to do, Steve, is you have to be everywhere. Yeah. Imagine that. You have to be everywhere, and you have to listen to all of the resources that are available. And then you have to recognize what are one of the gaps in our community that we're working on. We're working on making sure that our parents are aware of and can navigate the voucher system for out of school time and early education. Well, you know that in the back of your head. You know in the back of your head all of the players that you need. You network and get out there in state meetings and in national meetings, and you talk with people and you get to know people, and you would be amazed at the many resources that are available. Well, then you have to be brave enough to say, my community is working on this, and we would love to have you a part of this. Because if you're making that intentional ask instead of saying, hey, come join our campaign for grade level reading, we do great things, and it's lots of fun. You don't tend to grow that collaboration unit as strongly as you do knowing where you want to go and intentionally asking people and organizations in your community to be a part of that, because that's their goal. That's what they intend to grow. That's what their grant dollars, their donations, their everything is supporting. So if you can figure out what your gaps are and bring people in to fill those gaps and give them that intentional ask, you would be amazed at how far you grow. The last health fair we had, like I said, we had like 75 resources at the health fair. Parents that came, they walked away saying there was absolutely nothing at this health fair that was not critical to the development of my child or the children in my family. We just didn't have people at the health fair to have people at the health fair. They were intentionally asked because they had a resource that we knew our families needed. So I don't know if I answered your question, but you have to be intentional on growing your collaboration.
No, I think that's hugely helpful. I think for everybody that does work like this, there's always that sense of tension that you're constantly having to invent, and you're building, and sometimes you do feel like setbacks. And so to understand that this takes time, takes persistence, but there's rewards in that, because what you're describing is really learning what the opportunities are to achieve something big, and being more informed and having the relationships with the people associated with those opportunities, you're able to increasingly engage them. And so this is something that builds over time. We have just a few more minutes. And so I just want to ask one big question here. As I said at the outset, real family partnership in the realm of education has been a challenge for communities around the country. And it's so impressive to hear what you are doing. There's so many lessons from it. I always think in terms of causes, like what is the big change that we're going for? How would you describe like what would be a change of historic significance that all your work might contribute to? If you were describing this as kind of like an end result that the rest of the country could look towards Mississippi about, what would that historic change, how do you describe that fundamentally?
Well, I think we've already started to change. You know, we've already had increased test scores and more third graders showing that they are reading. And so I think we've got some momentum, but we need to keep going. And so for me, with the campaign, I think it's every parent understanding the importance of school, like Allison said, having their children there and just being involved with their kids, being welcome at school, and just keep building those relationships and forming those connections to services. I think just having every parent involved with their child, I think would be huge. Just talking to them, reading to them, having them at school, you know, doing the best they can for their child, I think would make all the difference.
Thanks, Karen. That's great.
For me, it's going to be a little different. And I'm sorry. When we know that almost 50% of our state fall under the ALICE threshold, when we know that the almost 50% of our state have people who are working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet, in order to keep their lights on, food on the table, children clothed, having to make those extremely difficult decisions on what they can do to just survive, not to thrive, but to survive. I think everybody in this field of work, teachers, administrators, after school agencies, all of us need to take a step back and realize that our parents are doing the best that they can to provide for their children. And do not for 1 second think that you understand what shoes that they are walking in. Do not for 1 second feel as if this parent who cannot make it to the parent-teacher conference, or who cannot make it to the field trip, or who cannot make it to Muffins for Moms, or who cannot do all of the things that those of us in the professional field have the opportunity to do. Do not look down on them. Do not say that they are not invested in their children, because you don't know until you've walked in their shoes. So for me, what would the ultimate goal for me would be to understand and respect the life that all of us lead, and to figure out a way to help parents be an active part in their child's education that may not be as cookie cutter as we have always deemed it to be. That's what I would love to see.
Okay.
In my
Go ahead.
case, I'm gonna add to what Kara just said, because I think that we have momentum right now. I know that as a district, we have accomplished so much. We have changed so much. We have so many protocols in place that truly, I believe we're doing a great job. So if anything, I mean, if you ask me, I just want to continue this to make it even stronger and bigger. And if we had 80% participation, maybe make it 100 one day. But if you ask me today, if I were to leave today this issue, I say we did an amazing job. I mean, it took 2 decades, but we're right there. And I think, I mean, in my case, it needs to keep growing.
Mhm. So I'm going to wrap up my piece here and just talk about just some of the critical lessons I've gained from this conversation. And I think at forefront is having a dedication to putting families first. When you think of education, you put the children and the families first in your scenario, which sounds obvious, but isn't always obvious in the way things work. You've talked about finding ways to build authentic relationships with families that have multiple dimensions, but at the heart, where families are able to be understood, able to be heard, able to be supported in ways they find meaningful, able to have the control and influence that they want to have. And you talked about doing this in a way that creates multiple opportunities to do that in your community, recognizing that a whole variety of organizations in your community can find value in participating in that, but they need to be organized towards a common frame of working and a common goal, but that they value that. And so when you talk about success, it's having that foundation and the way your community operates, where all these things are able to continue because that's the way things work. And to me, that's a very powerful set of things for at least me to take away from this. So I'm going to turn this back over to Alyssa, but I want to thank you for this. I'm enormously impressed with the work that you do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining. And I think another thing that kind of came to light for me was thinking about not just this dedication to families first, but creating that from the very beginning, right? Because it can't start when they enter school. It can't start when they start pre-K. It can't start, it's from the very, whatever day one is, right? From the time a mother finds out that she's expecting a child. What does that system of family support look like in your community from that day one? And how do we continue that as families and kids continue to go through different stages and there's different challenges? And I think that's so important too, right? Because it isn't just at one point, but really how do we start that from day one and continue that? And another thing, I think, just to reiterate what kind of prompted this webinar was in this work with the campaign, I think particularly in Mississippi, in any conversation I have in any community, whatever challenge we're talking about, I know we have our three main buckets, but the common thread in every single conversation we have, it always goes back to families in our community. And so for me, I think we have to start with families first, right? Before we can get to all of those other things. And so I'm just really encouraged and thankful that all of you were able to join us today. I hope our audience also left with at least just some light bulbs going off or some excitement also. I think that's another good thing. I think Ms. Carolina said we celebrate our families and our students, right? But I think also sometimes as much work as we have ahead of us, it's also important for us to celebrate that we even have people here that are spending this much time critically thinking about how can we better engage and support our families across all of Mississippi and all of our families. So I think this is, if anything for me, I think with the start of a new school year, it's inspiring for me to see the things that are happening. And I see somebody raised a hand.
Yes.
Go for it.
First of all, thank you all so much for your candor and for bringing all of your expertise to the table. Just briefly, I work with an organization, a nonprofit called Springboard to Opportunity here in the Central Mississippi area. And the question that I came to this meeting with is like, I love everything that you all are saying about having the relationships. We have that. Our tagline is that we are radically resident driven. So in everything that we do, we approach our work from the standpoint that parents and families know best what they need. And so we go from there. But my question to the group is, are there any resources that you know of in the Central Mississippi area that we should actively be connecting with to help support parents in these asks? We don't anymore have programming specifically in our communities geared toward that. We have buckets, like we have an education advocacy fellowship. So if they're, when we're having that, are there groups that can come and help support those parents that we're already actively activating as education advocates in their communities? But also, are there groups, like I heard someone mention something, and I know I'm putting a lot out of here at one time, but my goal is to just get it all out so we can leave here on time, because I kind of got a hard stop at 11:30. Like with vouchers, a lot of our parents struggle with getting vouchers for their kids. And we see that a lot of kids are being kept home when they really should be in preschool, or there might be some transportation barrier to getting them to Head Start. So are there any partners that we should be connecting with so that when they reach out to us about these issues, we can activate those partnerships, because guaranteed they're going to align with our mission of supporting our families. We just need to know who they are and the conversations that we need to be having.
For the vouchers, the Mississippi Low Income Initiative.
Maliki, yeah. And okay,
Yes.
so here's the thing that we run into with Maliki. If the mom is not actively in school or actively working, it's like, stop. I can't help you to get this voucher. Well, I need the voucher so I can enroll in school or go to work.
But think outside of the box. We haven't done this yet, but we're going to do it in September. They're going to train us on how to help families receive vouchers. So we will have a group of people in our community who can work with families without having any without having any expectations of those families. So we'll have agencies in our community that are going to be trained on how to hold the hand of a parent who needs a voucher, and they're going to come and train us to do that. Sometimes you can't 100% depend on an agency, but you can glean information from that agency so that you can expand and improve upon the work that you're doing. And my final thing is, if I were you, I would contact every Campaign for Grade Level Reading community lead, because all of the resources across Central Mississippi are different, and how we use them are different. So the easiest, quickest way for you is community leads from the Campaign for Grade Level Readings in Central Mississippi.
I'm going to follow up with you.
Thank you.
I have your email from your registration, so I have a note to myself. So when we can touch base and maybe brainstorm even together, who we have across. So, all right. If you guys continue to have questions, at the last slide, I have my email address, but here are just some resources. Just initially, it's our national campaign website and our Mississippi campaign website. So on that Mississippi website, you can see all of our communities and the leads there with their contact information. But again, I'll follow up with you too. So I'll share those, and then here's my contact information. So if you heard something, you want to get connected to somebody else or have follow-up questions or things you think we should share with the group, get with me and I will help coordinate that. I have all of the emails of everybody who registered, so people here and people who couldn't make it. So I'd love to keep the conversation going. And again, just thank you so much to our panelists and for Steve for moderating. Really appreciate the insight in the conversation. And I hope our participants and attendees left with something new or something excited to keep them motivated as we continue to engage with families and consider what it's going to take to move the needle even further in Mississippi. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.